Welcome to the WordPress New York City Meetup. My name is Steve Bruner. I am your organizer. By a show of hands, how many first-timers do we have here to our meetup? Most of the group. Great. Okay, awesome. I'd also like to thank CBS Local for hosting us. This is an amazing space. It holds 120 people, which is one of the biggest spaces we've ever had. And they donate this to us. They give this to us for absolutely free. And they're pretty awesome. Yeah, thank you guys. Also, we have other sponsors. We have 6 other sponsors for the meetup, theme plugin sponsors, and I suggest you check them out as well when you get a chance. All right, Rindy.
Okay. Hi. Thanks, Steve. Hi, everybody. I'm Rindy, and I've been using WordPress for a few years now, so since we have a lot of beginners here, I thought I'd help out and take you through this presentation here. You've installed WordPress, so here is our little test site we have here. You can see we're using the 2011 theme. Gorgeous, right? You've installed it. This is what it looks like in your dashboard. And what I'm going to do here is take you through some of the settings. So if we go to first, settings are over here. You look at your general settings. You may have taken a look at this already. Some obvious stuff here, site title, that kind of thing. One thing I wanted to look at first is this little button here, anyone can register. Now what this means is if you check this box, of course, anyone can register on your site. This is a little screenshot from the login page, and you can see here there's a register button. This will allow anyone to click and register to become a member of your site, which would allow them to comment or other things. But if you uncheck that box, this little register link will disappear. Now, I like to uncheck it myself because I've found that if you have it checked, you might get a lot of bot accounts, that is spammers just create fake accounts. You see it turn up sometimes. So it's kind of helpful to just keep things clean. And also it doesn't prevent commenting. People are still able to comment on your website when it's unchecked. So that's one of the things that I do on general settings. Next we'll look at the writing settings, which is helpfully next. So you may have seen some of these things like emoticons, convert your smiley faces, but there's a little thing down here which is a little bit confusing, but it's kind of important. XML RPC. Now, what does that mean? Enable the WordPress movable type publishing protocols. Translation, publish from your phone. You can get the app for your iPhone, Android, iPad for WordPress, and you can publish from your phone or from your iPad. But you need to tick this box right here in order to make that work. So you have to enable this. And if you've tried downloading the app and you hadn't ticked that, you may have seen the reminder that that was necessary. So next, if we look at the reading settings, we see this choice here. This is a big choice for when you're first setting up your website. What's your front page going to be? Well, for a lot of blogs, your front page will show your latest posts, your most recent work. But you could also choose to have a static page, that is a page that doesn't change very often. So you might go here into Pages, create a page called Home, and then choose to make that the front page. Or any of these pages, about the tests, for example. Then you would choose another page to represent, say, your blog page, where your latest post would be. So that's totally personal decision, up to you, but that's how it works. Another thing on this page is the number of posts per page. What that means is that if you, let's say you had your latest posts on your front page, you set this to 10, it's going to show your 10 latest posts. You set it to 3, it's going to show only 3. But it's not just for your home page, it's also for any archive page. So for example, your category pages, your January 2012 page. All of those will be governed by this main setting. Your theme might override that at a local level so that it would say, okay, show 20 posts on your archive, but for all intents and purposes, this is your main setting for that. So it affects more than just your home page. And then for your feed right here, how many items would show in your feed? That's your RSS. If somebody has saved your feed to their Google Reader, for example, how many items are they going to see each time they load it? And then for each article in a feed, would you want to show them the full text of the post or just a summary, which would be the title, author, date, and an excerpt, or probably just the first few lines of the post? So some decisions to think about. Moving on to the discussion, I wanted to look at these three right here. You may have heard of something called trackbacks or pingbacks, and this is something that is unique to the blog world. Basically, it's a community, of course. I blog, you blog, we all blog together, and we want to link to each other. This is a way of doing it automatically. So you know about comments. You may have seen within your comments section or within another site's comments section how this is a comment. See, you can see somebody's typed something, and it's pretty obvious. This is a pingback. It looks kind of out of place. It's an excerpt. It has some before and after, and it sort of doesn't really fall into line. Basically what happens is this person had written on their blog about this post, and automatically, just by linking to it, this post now has a comment, or rather a pingback, to show that they've written about it. Some people think it looks a little bit messy, myself included, so you might want to turn those off just by saying allow link notifications from other blogs. You would say no. If you want to have your quotes from other people show up on their site, you would say yes, attempt to notify other blogs linked to from my articles. And then this last setting right here is, let's say you want to allow comments, you would allow people to post comments on new articles. This is probably the easiest way to turn off comments on your site. Just unclick it right there. Note for the record, though, that if you have already written 30 posts with comments allowed, and now you untick this and save it, those are not going to be changed. It's only going to be going forward from here, so you would have to change that. And there are other more effective ways to get rid of comments entirely. You can ask me about it later if that's something you're interested in. We're going to skip over media and talk about privacy. This one's pretty much yes or no. Do you want search engines to index your site? There are a few reasons you might not want this to be the case. For example, it's a test site, it's not meant for public consumption, or maybe it's not ready for prime time. You just don't want it to be out there yet. So you would say, please, Google bots, do not index my site. But there are a few things that you should remember. One of which is this does not hide your site. It's still online. So anyone with a link is going to be able to find it, and it's not private. It just means Google, please don't index. The other thing is not all search bots will respect this setting. So while Google and Yahoo, Bing, and the traditional guys are good about it, other bots don't pay any attention to it at all. They're still going to index your pages. They're still going to try to find your email so they can send you Viagra ads and all that good stuff. All right. One thing here which actually makes WordPress really cool, permalink settings. This is what we call pretty permalinks. You have seen probably some links where it looks like this. My site, tags, parties, 4th of July. It's human readable. You can get an idea of what that post is about just by looking at the URL. Whereas the default URL is something that's more like computer. This technically means it's like a database query. Post equals number 241. no one can tell what that means by looking at it. But through the use of WordPress, you can make your permalinks look like this. There are a few choices here that you can use. This is the default one we just mentioned, P equals 1, 2, 3. You could have it use day and name, the month and name of your post. And really, you're best off choosing one of these options. You can customize your structure, but you do need to beware a little bit because some of the things are not a good idea. If you want to look at that more in detail about what's not such a great idea, you should check this link right here. We are going to be posting these later, but basically, most people come in here and they choose one of these because the default just isn't that good looking. I don't know if it's easy to see here, but I usually choose something like month and name. Totally up to you. All right, and then lastly, before I hand off to Krista, who's going to talk about themes here, I just wanted to introduce the concept of a theme. When you go into the appearance section and look at your themes, one of the really awesome things about WordPress is that you're able to, you have content and design totally separated. So you're able to change the look and feel of your site at will without having to actually change any of the content. So we see that this site looks like this right now. But if we want to change the theme, we can just go into the back end, choose this, activate it. We'll refresh this page. It's the same website, but wow, look at that. All different. Right? Now, none of your content has changed. It's all still there. Oh, whoops. Page lines is actually kind of an intense theme. Let's try another one. How about My Life by Justin Tadlock? Now, this is the same site, but here we go. Wow, look at that. Even better. All these posts are the same posts, just totally changed the theme. So that's important to remember. We're going to go into a little bit more discussion about themes in a second with Krista, but I'm going to pause there and ask if there are any questions about the settings that we've gone over there. Or any other settings questions that maybe you've come up with. Sure.
When you mentioned discussion settings,
yeah.
Allow from other blogs to your blog, is it possible to have it only on certain pages? Can you isolate it to this group of pages, but not that group of pages?
To allow the pingbacks and trackbacks?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Or to allow, you can allow comments. You can allow on specific posts or pages, you can say, yes, allow comments on this page, or no, do not.
As you post the page,
right.
As you create the page.
Absolutely, yeah. So if
you do that in the discussion settings.
For an individual post, you would do that here in post. So let's see if we were editing this post right here. You would just simply allow comments, no, yes, allow trackbacks and pingbacks, yes.
Pingbacks are the where your site has been mentioned.
Exactly, exactly, right.
So, and it's done right at the
That's done right on the post itself in the discussion section.
Where all the revision.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Just
yeah.
take that to the next, does one overrule the other? Do the master settings, or
yes, this the most specific over is the master. Let's say so. If you say to this post, yes, allow new comments, then the other setting doesn't matter. Yeah.
Could you describe trackbacks as clearly as you described pingbacks?
Sure. I think trackbacks. It's. Oh, she said, can you describe trackbacks as clearly as you describe pingbacks? Thanks. I'm glad it was clear because they are kind of muddy. Basically, it's the same thing in the reverse direction. So if I've written a post and you like it and you write about the post and you link to it, you link to my post, you have done a ping back to me, and I will list a track back to you. Did I have that right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. It means that on that post that you've linked to, in my comments section, it will have a track back, which is what we saw here.
Pretty common thing.
Actually, I wrote ping back. This is a track back, isn't
I
it?
prepared the clearly.
Sorry about that. This, yeah, I'll change that before we publish it. But this is, it's displayed as a track back. It's essentially the same thing, but
It's just
who did what? Yeah, exactly. Yes.
I noticed that you had checked attend to notify any blogs linked to from the article, but you haven't checked the other two allows on the discussion settings.
Let's
Can you
double
repeat the
double
question?
check that.
It's hard to-
Yes, I'll do that.
Discussion
So
settings.
you want to talk about the article settings here?
Well, basically that's what you get by default, but I saw you before unchecking the lower two allows and checking the upper one. So I was wondering.
Oh, I was just demonstrating the checkboxes, but basically, yeah, I would say if you want, I mean, it's nice to notify others. They don't have to print their trackbacks if they don't want to. But it's common courtesy to say, yeah, attempt to notify other blogs if I link to them. I think that's the nice thing to do. If this one's totally up to you. If you don't want to list people's trackbacks in your comments, then don't.
And then you would not allow people to post comments on your articles, or you would? What do you
Personally, I mean, it depends on the site. So if you have a blog, I think it's pretty traditional to allow comments. Whereas if you're building a site for a local restaurant, probably not.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. One more question, maybe? Anyone? Steve?
Go back to the registration for a second.
Yeah.
Can you just go over the different user roles for when you register?
Yeah, sure. New user default role. So these are your different roles of your users. You, as the god of your website, are the administrator. Subscriber is the lowest form of creature on your planet blog. Most of the time, you're going to have people be subscribers when they first register.
You mean Muppets?
Yes. If you're running GoldmanSachs.com, these would be Muppets. Essentially, these denote different permissions and powers that you have. So if you're a subscriber, the only powers that you're going to have are probably to comment, and you can set these in another setting under users.
No,
No, it's a role.
You do a plugin.
You can use a special plugin to help you with that, and we'll get to plugins in a minute, but subscriber is the lowest, and if you are a contributor, an author, you can write posts. If you're an editor, you can edit other people's posts that you haven't written. And if you're an administrator, you can do everything. So for example, if I was logged in as a subscriber, most of these links would not be available to me. I would not see the appearance because I wouldn't have permission to change the themes. Yeah.
Can we create custom user types?
You may, yeah. There's a plugin for that. Definitely. I would say members plugin is a good one. It's called members plugin. That's a good one to look for. Sure. Yeah. One more question.
Keymaster and moderator, what are those roles? They're not on there, but
Keymaster.
That's for forums, BB Press.
Okay, so that's specific to forums. So it's not on your standard install. That's for BB Press. But we, ask us about it later. Okay. All right. I'm going to hand it off to Krista. Thanks very much, everybody.
Hi. So today we're going to talk about themes. So in a nutshell, what's a theme? A theme is pretty much all of the files that affect how your site looks. Themes are stored separately than the WordPress core files. They're also stored separate than the plugin files as well as your content. So you can pretty much, like Rindy showed you, you could pretty much swap out the themes without having to worry that your content's going to go anywhere. So in the WordPress community, we have both free and premium, or they're called the commercial plugins available. Some of the benefits of a free theme is that you could pretty much try as many as you like. There are a lot of themes for you to try, so by all means, you could test them out, especially if you're a beginner. They kind of give you an idea of how WordPress works. You can, see different types of options and features that are available in the different themes. One of the downsides, though, is that it is technically, most of them are unsupported by the developers. So you tend to rely on the community. However, you can go to WordPress.org, check out the forums, as well as here in New York City, we have the local WP NYC site, which we also help a lot of the local members troubleshoot some issues there. Commercial and premium themes are really cool because if you're building a niche website, sometimes there are features that you're going to find there that you may not find in a regular theme. But, I'll get into that a little later also. But the other good thing about a commercial theme is that it's generally supported. Usually, a good developer will provide really good support. However, don't think that just because you pay for something that you're guaranteed excellent support. Unfortunately, that's not always the case. If you're trying to figure out if one is better than the other, it's a hard question. Personally, in my opinion, I don't necessarily think that one is better than the other. I think it really just has to do with your particular project and your particular needs, which one you should go with. So a great place to start when you're searching for themes is in the WordPress.org repository, which is at wordpress.org/extend/themes. As of this morning, there were 1,518 free themes available in the repository. So if you're starting out, that's a great place for you to just kind of get your feet wet, see where things are, see the types of themes, maybe even get some inspiration. From there, you can see a screenshot at the bottom. On the sidebar, there's a link to a commercial listing of themes. These are premium companies that put out themes that you can pay for. There were 65 commercial companies listed there, and in each of them you can find any number of themes. So, this is a good place to start looking for premium themes, because generally these companies, they have to go through some sort of vetting procedure with WordPress. So usually, there is some standard, and usually the support and the quality you're going to get, might be better than some of the others. Everyone has a method to their madness. When I work on a project, I always start in the .org free theme repository. Sometimes for inspiration, sometimes just to see what's there. If I'm not happy, then I'll check out some of the commercial companies. From there, if you're still not satisfied, and if you want to look for some other premium themes, there are small independent companies, some small, some medium, some large. There's like Elegant Themes, there's Themify, WPMU, and there's a bunch of other companies like them out there that sell their themes directly off their own websites. In addition, there are marketplaces available. One of the most widely known marketplaces is themeforest.net, and another one that's also pretty well known is Mojo Themes. And pretty much when I compare ThemeForest to, let's say, one of the companies like Elegant Themes or Themify, the easiest way I could compare it is that a place like ThemeForest is like the equivalent of going to Walmart compared to going to like your mom and pop shop. So a lot of times when I search, I'll start with the free theme repository, then I'll check out some of the smaller companies, see what they have to offer, and then I move on to the bigger ones. Just because for me, it's a way for me to control and keep everything in a kind of bite-sized search. I've literally gotten lost for days and weeks searching for themes. So, it's just one of those things. The other place that you can also, if you're still kind of looking for information, is theme reviewers. WP Candy, WP Tavern. Smashin' Magazine now has a whole entire section devoted to WordPress. So these are, just 3 out of many WordPress theme reviewers out there. A lot of times they'll show you features and different things that can come in handy. One of the things I will suggest you do not do, don't go on Google and type in something like the best WordPress theme, because you're going to get a lot of hits, but the problem is you may not, especially if you're starting out and you're not familiar with the community, you may not know which sites are reputable and which ones aren't. So you may end up ending up on a site with like link farms and all sorts of malware, and so in my opinion, I just wouldn't do it. Instead, what I would do is I would read a review, I would check out some of the other sites, I would listen to some themes that other people talk about, and use Google to search specifically by name. So if you hear a theme, like Carrington or Page Lines, go to Google and type in Page Lines WordPress, and that'll take you to where you can find information about that specific theme. That's a far better use of Google to search for themes than just doing blanket searches. So in doing a search, there's a lot to consider. As I showed you, there are a lot of themes out there, so pretty much when you're looking and considering themes, these are kind of some of the benchmarks that I use when I'm searching for themes for clients. And I also provided a couple of screenshots there. The one on the left is generally what you'll find in the .org repository, and then the two on the right are two that I took from just two marketplaces. And they just kind of show examples of specs. So just to quickly go through them, when you're looking for a theme, the first thing you're going to look for is visual design. Do you like it or not? I mean, pretty much you know what you like, you know what you don't like. If you don't like it, move on. If you like it, it's helpful. I'll open up like a text editor or some kind of bookmarking tool and just start bookmarking and copy URLs. And just keep a list of all the ones you like so you can come back to later and just kind of go, eliminate the ones after you've exhausted your search. Again, when you're looking for a theme, you also want to know, does this theme fit your needs? So let's take half a step back. Before you even start theme searching, one of the most helpful things for you to do is just get a pen and paper, just kind of brainstorm, think about what you need, think about what you want, think about your needs today as well as in the near future. You also want to consider, let's say, are there options that you might be looking for, or features if it's a niche market site. The next couple of items listed there are, in my mind, probably more important because, they deal with more how well a theme is put together, and like I said, you'll see the stats over there in the example, you'll see the compatibility, you'll see, which versions of WordPress is it compatible with. Right now we're using WordPress 3.3.1. So if you see a theme that says it's compatible with 2.8, that probably shows that that theme's probably been around. It doesn't mean that the theme's no good and it's not going to work with 3.3.1, but you may want to check when was it last updated. So was it updated in 2009? Which means that you may have some glitches because we have had some changes to core since then. Available support. If you're paying for a premium theme, again, as I stated before, just because you pay for support doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to get the greatest support ever. So one of the things that I find helpful when I'm searching for themes is comments. A lot of the places, like for example in Theme Forest, you can read the comments that people are posting. Comments, in my opinion, can be valuable because what I'll look for is I'll look to see what kind of issues are people posting about. Are they looking for, let's say, more features, which means that the theme's probably good, but they just want more out of it? Or are they talking about every other post is that, an error this, an error that, this isn't working. So when you're assessing a theme, read what people are saying about it. Also know how long ago was that comment posted. So if the comment was posted a year ago, but you notice that it was last updated a month ago, the theme, more likely than not that the developer took the time to fix those bugs. So, all of these things are points to consider. Price, I put last because in my opinion, I don't necessarily think that a theme should be judged by price. I know that if you're building a project on a shoestring budget, and I've done a lot of no budget projects for clients, price is something that you want to account for, but at the same time, I don't want you to think that because you pay $70 for a theme or $100 for a theme, that you're going to get anything better than a free theme. I've worked with a lot of free themes that are very well structured, very well put together, solid, and in my opinion, in some cases, can outperform a paid premium theme. So, you really have to just kind of, before you start, really know what you want, but also pretty much be open and creative to ideas. Because you're going to see that what you start and what you think you want, by the time you complete your project, is not necessarily the same. So don't be so narrow-minded and think that what you want is the only thing out there. Look at your competitors, see what they're doing, but don't necessarily do what they're doing just because they're doing it. Don't be afraid to be different either. The other point that I want to just bring up with themes is that, as I stated when I first started, the theme files are stored separate than your plugin files. So you can interchangeably swap from one theme to the other. However, if you're working with some themes that have certain things, like let's say short codes or theme-specific features, you may want to reconsider going with a more simpler theme and instead use plugins to bring in some of that functionality. Because if you bring in the plugins to do the functionality, then when you swap from one theme to the other, you're not going to lose some of those, some of those key features. For example, some of the things that you might be thinking would be a slideshow, a recent post slider, music player. It just depends on what you're building. So just, don't be afraid to search. Like I said, there are a lot of themes out there, and quite honestly, in my opinion, it's one of the most awesome parts about WordPress. I mean, you could pretty much make your website look as you want, interchangeably, swap them out. If you find a theme, if you're frustrated with it, if you've been trying to get something to work and it's not working, don't be afraid to try something else. I've literally swapped themes after working on them for weeks, and then just decided that it wasn't what we wanted and went with something else and was way happier with my second choice. So that's pretty much about it. Any questions?
Under my themes now for like the last 6 months or so, it said update 1, but then the guy who did my theme, he specifically wrote underneath where you go to the theme on the bottom, and it says, do not update theme as customization will be lost. What does that mean, and can I update the theme or not?
Don't. Don't. Unless... Okay, so she basically what's happening with her site is that she had someone customize her theme, and he wrote a note that basically said, don't update this theme. So now, since then, the developer released an update. So what's going to happen is if she updates that theme, it's going to pretty much default and override all of the customizations that she had done. So the answer to your question is, don't update it. I would get in contact with him unless he set it up as a child theme. That's which he probably didn't. Because if he didn't, then he wouldn't put it that note. So unfortunately, I wouldn't update it. Maybe try to figure out how you can just like dismiss it and ignore it. The notification.
Actually,
get rid of that?
You should ask him to rename it and put it in a different folder.
Yeah.
And WordPress will recognize it as a brand new theme, and then the update should go away.
Yeah.
Rename the theme. Rename it to whatever your name is, theme. And now WordPress will recognize it as a separate theme and won't update it. I won't ask you to update it.
Oh yeah, I didn't think about that. Good.
Is there any way to evaluate themes for security? I've heard that some themes are less secure, more vulnerable than others. Is there anything that you do to
That's,
repeat the question?
his question is there anything to look for in evaluating for security? Unfortunately, and in my just experience, and I've been using WordPress for several years now, not really. What you can do is you may want to upload a theme, and then you may want to install a plugin. There's a lot of security plugins, so run a security plugin just to see if you get any flags that come up. That's the only thing. But unfortunately, the only thing I can say, that's why I said read the specs. Developers put the information out there. Read it. Read what features it has. Read the notes. Read the bug fixes, because these are all going to be clues as to if it's a good theme or not. Good.
Just about the same question which was asked before. Are you referring to updating WordPress or
No.
updating the theme?
She's talking about just the theme, not.
How about the WordPress itself? Does it affect anything when you update WordPress on a given theme?
Not necessarily. There could be a conflict, but which is why you always want to back everything up before you do any kind of upgrades. There could always be a conflict, but not necessarily, because remember, the theme files are stored separate than the plugins, as well as WordPress core, as well as your content.
And how about customization? If it's customized and you update WordPress, could it mess up things?
No, because again, the customizations are held within the theme specific or in those specific files, so not to worry. In back.
Yes, when you buy a theme on a site like ThemeForest, which I've been looking at, does it install automatically? Does
No.
the WordPress blog recognize it and install it?
No, when you buy a theme from some of these other marketplace sites or these third-party companies, premium companies, you're going to get like a download, like a bundle. So a lot of times you download the zip file to your computer. I would unzip that bundle to see, because one of the better developers, they'll put some documentation that's specific. And then usually there's another zip located in there. That's your install file. So you would upload that in, under appearance upload, in the dashboard, or you could do it via FTP. So.
Yes, I have purchased premium themes from, it's called the Genesis framework.
Okay.
And after I have purchased this, I find that they don't work like regular free themes. Like I can make changes in the menu and they don't show up in the front end. It's because they have probably a different way of working. They have free themes.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, she's working with Genesis and she's just having some issues. Some menu issues. I mean, it's a hard question. It's not the easiest question to answer.
We can talk about
yeah.
Until I get to my section.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can talk about menus and how to activate
later.
Yeah,
okay,
and you could come up to you come up to us after.
Specific. Same thing. If I have like in the regular free theme, I have the meta widget. How do I eliminate that meta widget?
We're going to talk about that later.
Perfect.
Patience.
Thank you.
Any other theme-related questions?
Just when sort of playing with switching themes, I've often found that all the widgets disappear and you have to redo the widgets. Is that normal?
Yeah, it is. I mean, because
you're gonna lose all your widgets.
Well, you're not gonna lose your widgets. Kevin's gonna talk about widgets later, but you're not gonna lose the content in the widgets. You'll lose the placement, so you'll have to replay, put them where they go. But you're not gonna lose it, so you don't have to worry about you're gonna lose.
Have to reconfigure them.
Exactly. In theory, they should all be stored. He'll show you more about that. Any other theme-related questions?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, you talked about when you looked at themes, see if you search and look and so forth. Some themes are very, very flexible. So just because you see something, you can always adjust it. Is that not correct?
Yeah.
Because I picked, I do have a premium theme that I've installed, Thesis.
Okay.
And that's quite flexible. That's one of the advantages I chose it.
Yeah. I mean, themes are really, that's why, I hope a lot of you might have come out thinking that I was going to tell you what theme to get. Unfortunately, in 10 minutes, I can't do that. I mean, there are too many themes out there. Don't be afraid to just get in there and just try on a bunch of different themes. That's why free themes are really good, because you can just try them for free, get a feel, and if you're still not happy, then decide if you want to, get something premium. Let's do.
Is that it? One more.
All right, one more question.
What are some of the licensing issues with themes if you're trying to run a business or a platform? What are some of the licensing issues as far as if you want to get X amount of users, revenue? Are there any? Because whenever I go look for a theme, I don't see that as an option. You can find it, but it's a little bit cumbersome to find what are there, how much, just in terms of you buy a theme, and you want 100 sites of that theme, or just licensing issues.
That's a developer specific question. Because every developer is going to have different licensing terms, and some of them may even have different terms depending on the theme itself. So unfortunately, you just have to either contact the developer or read the fine print, look at the sitemap, look for, information about, their specific guidelines. Okay, so are we?
That's it. We can take a break right now.
We can take a break?
Yeah.
Good.
Okay, so we're going to take a break. Okay, we're going to take a break. All right, actually, before we start, I wanted to say something. Someone mentioned security before, and I just want to take a minute or two and discuss WordPress security for a second. I'm not a security expert, but I have had a server hacked. I've had my mother-in-law's computer hacked. I've been hacked. So what's great about WordPress is that it's open source, right? So you can, if you're a programmer, you can open up the code and you can take a look at it. But that's also one of its downfalls, I guess, in some way, is that you can see the code, so you can look for security holes. WordPress is awesome in terms of getting those things patched and fixed quickly, and there has been no known hacking of WordPress itself. So you're pretty secure in that way. And Kevin's going to go through more details in that. But I guess I really want to focus on downloading random themes and plugins, or old themes and plugins. You want a developer that keeps up to date on what's going on. And a perfect example of this is something that happened a couple of months ago called Tim Thumb. And Tim Thumb is a PHP script which is awesome. It's been around for years, 3 years, 4 years maybe. And it resizes images on the fly. So it was very cool. And a lot of theme developers, legitimate theme developers, legitimate plugin developers included Tim Thumb in their themes and plugins. Packaged it in there. And when Tim Thumb got updated, they updated it, or they even modified the script. But this is legitimate. I mean, this, like I said, it's been around for years, and it was legit. Well, somebody found a security hole in Tim Thumb. And getting it updated was tougher. Okay, it wasn't just, it was the Tim Thumb theme or the Tim Thumb plugin. It was, hundreds of themes and hundreds of plugins that had it built in. And if you're a developer, and you might not even known you had it at that point because it was just one file in the massive files in your theme. So I guess the point is you want to stay up to date with the community. You don't want to be blind to this. I mean, WordPress is awesome, and there are millions of sites running on it, and the majority of the time everything's fine. But you do want to keep up with the community. On WPNYC, I listed the Tim Thumb security hole because I thought it was that important because most people didn't know it existed. Someone wrote a plugin very quickly that allowed you to scan your entire server for the Tim Thumb file and make sure that you didn't have it. And I had it on my server, right? So it was on some old theme that I didn't even realize I had, and so I was able to patch it quickly. So just be aware. I mean, it's not just, you just don't want to download and install things blindly, just like you wouldn't download and install things blindly on your Windows computer or your Mac as well. Okay? All right. Who's up next? Dana's up next.
So now we're going to go into the fun part, I think. Not being biased at all. So plugins versus themes. So Krista just talked about themes. Themes are what make your website visually look what you want the public to see when they come to your website, right? Plugins provides things it can do, like do you want membership? Do you want event calendar? Like it adds features that you can do to your website. That's what it says on the plugin repository. Plugins can extend WordPress to do almost anything you can imagine. So that, in a nutshell, plugins. Krista mentioned also that there are different files or different parts of your website, right? So here in Appearance is where you have the theme, any themes you're installed, right? And if you install themes, you go up here. Plugins is a separate menu, right? So it's a separate place on your server. And when you go to themes, excuse me, themes, plugins. Missed that one. What do I do here? Okay. It'll give you. Usually when you first install it, there's only two plugins. It says Hello Dolly and Akismet, which I can never pronounce. Did I say that right?
I don't know.
So a plugin, that's what a plugin is. This is where you manage it. Let me just make sure I'm following. What? That's in the wrong order. So the first place to look at plugins, again, is always WordPress.org. Now, WordPress.org, which I will pull up here. Can I?
Just change any tab.
New tab? So WordPress.org has the main menus in here. It says plugins. So there's 18,835 plugins. So that's a lot of plugins to review, right? So I'm going to show you, I'm going to go over some little tips of how to look for plugins, at least what I do for plugins. So that's the first place I go. Premium plugins, what I usually do, or when I first started working with WordPress, what I started to do is I would link from within WordPress. It'll tell you buy the premium version, and it'll link to their website, because that gives it more credibility, because WordPress does a check. They check all the files, and there's a quality measure that's already there, so I don't have to worry about is it a good site or is it not a good site. And then the other part is look at information sites, and a couple of these Krista mentioned was WP Candy. I like emails, so I don't have to go look at a website every day. And WP Mail, since once a week email updates, it's pretty cool. WP Beginner, MU, WP Lift, and then the WordPress section of Smashing Magazine. So those are the places I would go after I've looked at the free repository. So how do I know if it's a good plugin? There's a few things to look at, so we'll do a search right now. But version check, who the developer is, how many times it's been downloaded, the changelog, which means how often it's been updated and what's been updated, conflicts, which you may or may not know, and then the forum. So let me show you. So we're going to look for a plugin here. Anybody, what kind of plugin should I look for?
Gallery.
Everybody has different. Oh, no. So we'll do members, actually, because we talked about this earlier, and I'm going to show you. So members. So when you do a search, the first thing you should look for is look at a few things. Like if you look on the left, it tells you what version it is down there. It tells you when it was last updated right here, which is important. I don't download things that are over a year old for the most part because they're not keeping up to date. I like looking at this, the number of downloads, but that depends on the developer. So if it's a good developer, if they don't have that many downloads, I will test it out or use it because I know they're reliable. And I'll look at the stars, right? How many reviews they've gotten. Usually plugins might be hard to find, and WordPress isn't the best search platform. So what is the best search platform? This is the only way to use Google. This is the only way to use Google to do searches. But this link down here will actually take you to a Google search based on WordPress. So it's still a safe search. It's not a generic search, but that's the only way to use Google to search for plugins. Cool.
How is this different than going directly?
Because it's looking at the site WordPress.org extend plugins and looking at members. So it's looking within WordPress. It's not looking at the whole universe of Google. So I'm going to look at this members plugin because I'm going to show you this a little bit later. So when you log into here, there might be a pretty image at the top. Things I look at, again, the developer. If I click on the developer information, it's going to open up and it's going to tell me what other plugins they've developed. And usually if I see a few plugins, that means they're probably pretty active in the WordPress community, right? So they're probably involved in a lot of things. So I would say that this person, and he is a very good developer. This person's a very good developer, and you can tell by downloads too. A lot of his plugins have a lot of downloads, right? He also does themes, by the way. I think Rindy showed you one. So that's one of the first things I look at. I like to look at screenshots. I don't know why, but I do. So screenshots will tell you what it looks like before you install it. Every time you install a plugin, it usually creates a database, different file in a database. So I don't like to install things until I know I need them. On the left over there, it tells me it requires 3.1 or higher. So like Krista said, we're at 3.31 right now, right? So this is a pretty recent plugin. And it tells me what it's compatible to. Again, downloads, reviews. The other thing I look at here, if it's a plugin, I'm like, oh, I want that plugin, and maybe the reviews aren't that great, and maybe it doesn't have any downloads, I'll look at the forum posts here, if I can get this to work. And I'll see when's the last time, how quick the response was and when the last time responded. If there's not much response, it's probably not being maintained very much, and so I probably wouldn't use that plugin. Back here. So those are things I look at in plugins. The other thing you look at before you install is the installation guidelines. So it tells you what to do and how to do it. So right now we're going to actually go install this plugin. Is that cool? I love this plugin, by the way. if you go up here, it says Add New, right? And this is similar with the themes. When you ask it, how do I upload a premium theme, there's an upload option too. So they're similar. They look the same. But this one, if I'm looking within the WordPress repository, I just have to search for the plugin. And I do search for the plugin, which should be working. Are we online here? We are. Okay, and then I click here and install now. And it asks me if I'm sure, just to make sure. And I say yes, and that took me to another page. And so when I get here, you can do one of two things. I can activate it directly here, which if you're going to use that plugin, go ahead. It'll activate it. Or if I didn't activate it, it'll list them all here, and there's a different color shading, right? The members is a lighter gray than the other ones because that one's active and the other ones are not active. If I wanted to activate another one, this is a good one to always activate, is the WordPress importer. So that one always, you can just activate and change the color so you know what is active. So the last thing about searching for plugins is like, for example, a popular thing to use is having the sharing widgets, or not widgets, sharing icons at the bottom, right? So post to Facebook, post to Twitter, to wherever. You do not need 2 or 3 plugins that do the same thing, right? You only need one plugin that does everything because they could conflict if they do the same thing. And it might look messy. It affects the theme sometimes. And when you install a plugin, what I would look at too is how it looks on the front end, because some plugins actually do not look good on certain themes. So you have to actually see how it looks. I just did all this. So that's how you activate and do a plugin. Now, must-have plugins. This list was compiled by 4 of us. So we all have it's a different perspective, different opinions on everything, right? So the important thing is to have backups. Now, Backup Buddy is a premium plugin, just like themes. I'm drawing a blank here. Just like themes, WordPress has their premium plugins. The difference is you will not find any links to premium plugins here. And that's a philosophical discussion with the WordPress core if you want to, but they don't have that on here, so you're not going to be able to go through it from here unless it's listed within the description. It'll say link to get the pro plugin, right? I am a fan of premium plugins because they usually get better support. They're usually better quality plugins. They'll keep them up to date. When WordPress is updated, they're likely updated pretty quickly. So anyway, Backup Buddy is a paid plugin, but it backs up everything, including your database and your uploads file, which, I don't know if you know, that uploads is where you put your images, right? Where you put any images that you attach to the file. A free one that has one of the most popular is WPDB Backup, and that only backs up your databases. DB stands for databases. It does not back up any of the image files, as far as I understand, with the upload folder. Related content. 2 of the bigger ones are YARP, yet another related post plugin, thank you. And then NRelate, who I think are here tonight back there. And actually Steve made that one, right? So that's a good one too. So if you want to keep people on your site, when you're reading a post at the bottom, say you might also be interested in this topic, and they'll go to that blog post. Spam, the main one is Akismet. I like Anti-Spam Bee, and then the good one for get that kind of like math question before you register is SI captcha anti-spam. I think that that one has about 1 million plus downloads. For widgets, Kevin's going to talk about widgets, but widgets usually what controls your sidebar and what information is on your footer. Yeah. Oh, too fast? Yeah. These are going to be online. We're going to put this on the website. I don't know where. Sometime next day. But it'll be on the Meetup website or on the main website, which is. Can I move forward? Again, you do not we're showing at least 2 for everything. You do not need 2 backup plugins. You do not need 2 related content plugins. You do not need 2 spam plugins. Just one at a time.
What is related content?
Can I answer that in like 2 minutes?
Was spam free or paid?
These are free. Akismet, you have to pay for the service, I think, as well. No?
Unless you're like a major.
Okay.
Does it differ? Does that backup differ from my hosting company backup that I get once a week when they send me? Oh, we backed up your system, and then they have a file that I can. They send me.
I guess it depends. I actually have the hosting paid for because I don't have to deal with it, and I call them and backdate it. So can you do that for me? And it's done up in 2 minutes. So it probably does similar things if you're paying for full backup. So widgets. So again, widgets. We're good here now. So widgets are on using the sidebar or on the footer, right? So widgets is how I related posts, archives, the category history. These 2 actually let me control on what pages or categories I want widgets displayed. So if I want pages to only be, widgets to only be shown for logged in users, if I want widgets to be shown only on a specific category, I can control that using these two widgets. And actually, Kevin will go into more detail on how those work, and he'll tell you why widget logic was made by a woman.
No, you got
developer.
Display widget.
No, display widget. That's right. Yeah, display widgets. Email, I think is important. Like when you register for an account, it says welcome to WordPress or whatever, and it has a username and password. If you use the email one account, you can put your custom email in there. So info@ whatever your website is, and then it'll say your website name on the email. So anytime somebody does a forgot password or uses something like that, they'll get your email account. The difference between those better emails gives me some HTML templates. So if I know HTML, I can customize that template a little bit. So it's a little bit fancier. Sharing and following, that's the Facebook, Twitter, and all the social media stuff. These are just two that are pretty popular and have good ratings. The first one I like is it has the follow feature and the share feature, kind of separate features. You can customize that for your needs. And caching, I honestly don't use that much because my websites aren't that massive. I mean, a couple of them are, I guess. 2 times I use them, everything else I don't. But Super Cache is the most popular one, and then W3 Total Cache is a newer one, but it's growing popularity. And it has a ton of settings, so you might want to ask people for help when setting up W3 Total Cache. But those are kind of the main areas of what you can use for plugins. Are there any questions?
Jetpack.
Okay. I knew that was it. Personally, I do not like Jetpack because it puts that banner on every page and it has everything. It prepackages everything, and by doing all this, I can create my own Jetpack.
What is Jetpack?
But Jetpack is basically that if I used to be on WordPress.com, and WordPress.com is the version that you cannot use plugins in. It's a free version. You get myname.wordpress.com URL. You cannot use plugins, but they have some pre-installed settings that you can use for sharing and stuff. And that Jetpack brings all those settings over. So you can, if you're used to that and you want to just have everything you used to have, you install that and it puts everything in there for you. That used to be like WordPress.com.
If you're not using Jetpack, how do you do subscriptions and stats?
Well, honestly, you can use Google Analytics for stats, and put a Google Analytics plugin in. And subscriptions, I mean, there's a ton of newsletter plugins that you can use for subscriptions or feed burner plugins.
Not on your list.
Not on my list. I only went into a couple of detail. Yes.
I don't really understand why blogs need to be backed up because they don't live on your computer. They live offline.
But they live on a server, which is a computer at somewhere else, and they could get hacked, or they could have something happen, and if you don't back up your information, you just lose everything. And most server companies, I think by default, don't offer it. They usually have to pay an extra fee for backups. Yeah. So I recommend paying that fee if you're not using one of these backup. If the hosting company says we'll back up your files for $2 a month or whatever it is, just pay that fee. It's a safer bet.
Is there like a plugin that will just go out and search if there's a bad plugin that breaks your site? Say you have like 100 plugins and you know that one of them is like broken. I mean, you have to like go and disable each one of them. I guess is there like a plugin that'll do it or it'll scan it or repeat the bug?
Has the plugins plugin?
No, there isn't. And the thing is, likely if you're putting a lot of plugins, unless you know the history of the plugins or how they work with each other, they're going to likely conflict at some point. So you just have to deactivate one by one and figure out which one it is and get rid of the one that's likely causing the problem. There's no easy way around that.
Besides deactivating, how do you actually delete it? You have to go in and just delete it.
So if I go in here and I'm in my plugins, there's always, if it's deactivated, there's a delete option. And depending on the plugin, if you decide you need it again later, it'll actually bring back all the settings. Usually if it doesn't, it'll say in big red somewhere, it'll say do not delete, it'll erase all data. So just keep an eye on that.
Deactivating doesn't mean that it will prevent any conflict. It still could be still in conflict. Is that correct?
No, not usually. If it's deactivated, it means it's not being used. So there's no.
It's still there.
Yeah, but it's not being used. It's not there because usually when you create, and this I'll show you, when you create I activated the members plugin, right? I should have shown you this before. The members plugin creates two new. Well, usually it does two things. It usually creates a new menu here that says members, or it'll create a new item on the main menu, and then in this case it creates a role. So Rindy showed you there are 5 roles that come with WordPress by default. This is where you can control if you want to change those access levels for what each user can do. So the administrator can do everything, but the other ones can't do that. So if you want to tweak those, this is the way to do it with this plugin. But if it's deactivated,
you won't see that.
Yeah, if this is deactivated, that's a good point. Let's go do that. If I go deactivate this plugin, the users, those 2 menu items are now gone, and also the settings option is now gone. So it wouldn't conflict with anything.
A good way of thinking of that, go to the appearance menu for a second.
For which one?
Appearance.
Oh, okay.
So a good way of thinking, in themes, click on themes.
Oh, you want me to actually go to it?
Yeah.
Why can't I click on the
It's there.
Okay, so there's one theme that's active and 2 that are deactivated. They're not being loaded. They're just sitting there. They're on your server and you can't activate them, but WordPress isn't recognizing them except for the fact that it's loading them here. So it's the same thing on plugins. They'll sit there, but until you press activate, WordPress is not installing them, using them.
I don't think it's. I usually don't keep on live active sites. I don't keep plugins on there that I don't need.
Why?
It just takes up space, and I mean, I guess it does not. On my own test sites, I do, but not on live sites, just because it keeps it cleaner. I like to be organized.
I wonder if you might suggest a couple security plugins that you think are.
Security plugins.
What's WP's security? I think.
Like, what you know, not just.
Let's do this one.
So we're going to do alert. Oops. There's one, I'm drawing a blank right now. There's one I use.
Not WP security.
No.
Antivirus?
I don't use antivirus one. See, the thing about plugins that I usually, sometimes, like when you look for plugins, there's so many sometimes that it's hard to like sort it. And then what usually happens is I'll be looking for something else, and I'll find the plugin I need for a different project. So just be open-minded that you'll probably come across a plugin you need that when you're looking for something else, and it'll tie into something else you were looking at before, which is cool. Because then I'm like, oh, now I fixed that problem over there, and I can move on to this one.
Actually, I put that one, the top one in.
Bulletproof, I've not used that one, but it has good ratings. 181,000. It's updated in 2012.
Nice. It hits all your rules.
It hits all the rules. That's right.
It's a good contender.
I have never seen this developer.
He answers questions personally within 10 seconds. Really?
10 seconds? He does not sleep. So in this case, this is actually, I've always had people ask me, like, how can I put my Google Calendar link into a website so I can display my calendar? And there's one that, did I spell that right? Calendar. I've been looking for months, and I found one finally, and it actually works. So I can bring my iCal feed and automatically display it on my website if I want, and it looks pretty too, actually. Let's see the screenshots. But I found this one when I was looking for something not related to calendars. So you can add it. It's a custom post type, which we won't get into. I'm sorry I mentioned that. But it looks like that. So if you had a Google Calendar you keep for the public, you can just bring that in, and it's a page on your website. It's a beautiful thing.
Can you show the most popular plugins?
Yes, I can. Oh, that's a good thought. If it's the first time you've ever been to the repository here, and you're like, what the heck do I need? Always go over here to most popular plugins, and there tells you how many times it's been downloaded. And it's usually by number of download. Oh, not really. They're not in order. But these are the most often used ones. This is a good one to use. I like WP Navi. That depends on your theme, though, so don't just plug it in. WP Touch is for a mobile site. So if you want your site to appear on mobile, that's how you can add that. I think, is that it? Yes.
Do you or anyone else happen to know a good way to get custom gravatars that assigned to people who don't have an icon already when they comment on your site? But I want to be able to create a small library of custom gravatars so that they're going to get some. I design, not company that.
There's probably a way to do that. I don't know off the top of my head.
I don't know if a plugin that does it, but there is. There's actually some code that you can add. You can enter a theme or a plugin that actually does it very easily.
It always gets complicated when you customize.
Send me an email. I'll post it on the WPNYC site, and this way everyone can benefit from it.
Sorry, she had a question. Somebody in the back had a question first. Yeah. This is my bias. So she asked me, do I use plugins more than anything else to customize? And my answer is yes. I use it for, they have shortcode plugins for buttons and, you want tabs on your page. They have plugins for just about anything because, your theme in a year or 2 or 3, you're going to get sick of it and you're going to want to update it and you're going to want a new one. And so if you link a lot of data to your theme and you deactivate that and you go to a different one, you're going to have all these codes that are related to that theme, and you have to go in page by page by page to change them all. If you use it with a plugin, it doesn't matter what theme you have. The codes will still be there, and it's not linked to your design. So anyway, yes?
How do you look for a plugin programmer to do custom plugins? You go in...
There is a developer site. What is it?
Well, it's Code Poet. That's our site.
Well, you can go to, yes, that's a good point. You can go here first and look for one of us. And then if you don't like us,
Code Poet.
It's Code Poet, right? Code Poet. Did I spell that right? No. .com? Code Poet. Really? They changed.
There's a link at the bottom.
Oh, there we go. Where's your mouse? Here we go.
They moved it today.
It used to be on the main page, but this has a link of a bunch of people that around the world and what their price range is, so you can get a plugin developer that you like. She had a question there.
Yeah. Can you recommend a good WYSIWYG plugin, especially for people who are truly not technical and they want to maintain or change the content of their site?
What is it? Advanced.
WYSIWYG. What you see is what you get.
Yeah. Wait, why is this not typed?
I always do the same thing. What use?
This one I like. Yes. Is that the wrong one? Wait. Yeah. There we go. It doesn't even appear at the top. I said it backwards. So Tiny MC Advanced gives you. Well, I actually use this all the time just because of actually Kevin taught me this. It has the break things between HTML and back, but so you can customize the WYSIWYG editor to have extra things. And he's one of the core. He's on the core team, so this developer's on the core WordPress team, so he's a good developer to work with when it comes to plugins. And I think I'm done. I'm told I'm done. Kevin's coming up to tell you more about WordPress.
Okay. Great. Let's see where we're at. Okay, so we're going to talk about widgets and menus first, then go on to tips and tricks. Let's take a look at what I got here. So we've talked about setting up the site. We've talked about adding a theme, plugins to give us functionality. Widgets and menus are where we're going to start displaying that functionality. And what are widgets? If you go into the codex, you're going to read that widgets are code-free ways to add options and features to your site. So let's take a look at that. Okay, so taking a look here. Good, here we go. So we've got under the appearance of themes, we've got a menu item called widgets. And by default, what theme are we on right now? I didn't look at that. Nope, we're on My Life. Okay, My Life has two widget areas, a primary and a secondary. So this is very much like a traditional WordPress theme that widgets go in the sidebars. So what we end up doing is you've got two sidebars. One has an RSS widget that we put on the site. And if we come back to the site and refresh it, where are you? Okay, we see that on the right-hand side we have one widget, and it happens to be the Twitter feed from WordCamp NYC. What we get to do is there are some built-in widgets, such as the latest posts. So where are we? Recent posts. That's great.
It's typical.
Yeah, exactly. Recent comments.
Is it down there?
No, it's gone.
That's right. You can log in for that.
No, it's not the theme. I think it's the width.
I think it's archived. No, I think he overrides themes.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Go to 2010.
That's exactly right. Okay. That's how I did my testing. Okay. So now, recent posts. So what these widgets do is they come with many, there's many common widgets that come with just WordPress itself, such as the search widget. So when we come back to our site and refresh now, the first thing we have is we have a search box on our theme. So if I search for, I don't know what's on this site. If I search for Lauren, okay, because I know, nothing's found. Oh, you mean I can't spell either tonight? Great. Okay, so Lorem, layout test, images test, and this is all because we have Lorem in it. So the search plugin, or the search widget, allows us to search for content on the site. The recent posts widget, we can drag over here and place it. And it's one of the neat things about the widgets. Since rather than having to open up your theme or create your own plugin and deal with code, you can actually have these widgets that we drag and drop onto our sidebars and then create the content. So I'm going to say latest posts. I'm going to add a title. None of us can spell, so we've all failed that part. And how many posts do we want to show in the latest posts? I'll show 4. We save that, go back to the site, click on home, and latest posts come up right here and will show us our latest posts. So we can alter the content that we have. Recent comments, a tag cloud. So this particular theme has footer widgets. And in there, it comes with, because I must have put it there, a tag cloud. And here we have another tag cloud. So tag clouds allow you to show content. Let me just refresh this to make sure it's there. You go to the bottom of the site. I think we have set for 10 posts, so it'll take a second. And we've added a tag cloud of all the tags and categories that are on our site that are clickable. And the larger the size of the font, the more it's been used. So this is a very common content area that you see on sites, whether it's in the sidebar, whether it's on the footer. And if we want to click on, I can't pronounce that, but we've got a tag for, anyone want to take a guess at how to say that? I'm not sure. But what ends up happening is with the widgets, it really allows you to control the display of your site. You're responsible for the content and the posts that you write, and your theme's going to take care of how that looks. Now, every theme has sidebars, and some have multiple sidebars. Now you get to, well, every, okay? All right, almost every. I'm getting called on the everything thing. But you get to then put the content where you want it to drive your readers where you want to do. The other neat thing about it is it's fully drag and drop. If you haven't played with it before, we can just drag the content where we want it, come back to the site, and it's there. Okay, so this is something anyone can do because, again, it's really a way not to have to write code to do this. One of the other things that come up with widgets is where do we actually want to show them? So Dana had mentioned the Display Widgets plugin, which I'll now activate. widgets by default, once you put it into a sidebar or a widget area, is going to display on all pages and posts, unless, of course, your theme has turned that off. Okay? The display widgets allows us to have even more control over that. So if we only want the categories tag to, if I want to hide it on for logged in, if I want to show it for only logged out users, I check that, hit save, and since I'm logged in, it should disappear, which it does. What the functionality that this gives is it allows us to decide whether we want to show it for logged out users, logged in users, front page, archive page, so you can really determine where you want this content to appear.
Can you show how you got to that one more time?
Sure. Okay. So what we end up going here is under plugins, we've already downloaded and display widgets has been activated. Okay, and the plugin is display widgets. The reason we're showing display widgets is I've always used something called Widget Logic, and it's a really powerful plugin that does the same thing, except that in the area where you have to tell it where you want it to display, you have to kind of type a little bit of code. I don't think it's too much. But Dana alluded to before, she said to me, show display widgets because it was written by a woman developer and it's logical and you can understand it. So, and I said I would say that because when I looked at it, I said, wow, this is something even my sister-in-law could understand. She's, she won't watch this, but she is the lowest common denominator of how I judge. Oh, I'm not ahead. Okay. So once we have display widgets installed, we can then, for each of these widget areas, if we do nothing, they will appear on all posts and pages. There's an option to show or hide the widget, either hide on checked or show on checked. So I'm going to keep it as hide on checked because I'm going to want to generally show widgets most of the time, or at least it's how I am. And now we get to decide where do we want to hide it. Do I want to hide it on the front page, the blog page, the archive? If I want to hide it on the single post page, when someone's just reading one single article, a checkbox there will hide it. If I want to scroll down further, it will actually list all my pages, and I can choose whether to hide it or not on those pages. I can also go down and get categories or tags, and I can determine what categories and tags get what widgets. So it enables me to have different widget areas on different pages without doing any code. Because you could do it with a page template. There's a lot of code ways that you could actually do that. But here's really a code-free way that you can say, I want to put, a Twitter box, a Twitter feed to show latest posts, but I only want that on the home page. I don't want that anywhere else. And here we can do that. So that's a very powerful plugin, and it allows us to use the widgets that way. Let's go back to my slideshow, see what else I forgot. Okay, so as we mentioned, there are built-in widgets. They are theme dependent, as Steve pointed out, because I had tested this with 2010. Certain themes will actually change the default widgets, and some will come and go based upon that. And if you have your own theme, you might see extra widgets, and you may see some of the core ones extended or altered. So we've talked about the recent posts, recent comments. There's page widgets, archive and calendar, so that you could actually show a listing of your archive pages on the home page. We manipulated them. That's the thing. The other thing that becomes important is when we go into, and we'll go into this one, when we go into the widget and we don't want it anymore, we have a couple of options. We can just delete the widget, in which case it just goes away. But the other thing that's really nice is there are inactive widgets. So we can actually drag this widget into the inactive zone and drop it here. The advantage to this over deleting is the settings in that widget are saved. So that if you now want to bring that back later, maybe with another theme, maybe with another area, all we have to do is drag and drop and bring that back. The other thing I wanted just to highlight is that if we go into another theme, I played with Prototype before. Prototype is a free theme that I found that offers extra content areas for widgets. So he's got primary, secondary. He's actually got a header widget area and what's called after singular, so that if you want to display content after a post, it can go here. So if we go back to the site and refresh the site, we now see that it's a new theme and it kept one widget. So what I'm going to do is say, and I've actually got some preset for this, in the header, I'm going to take this text widget, and after singular, I'll take, oh, thank you, this text widget. And I'll talk to you about what they are in a second. But refresh the site, and what we're going to see is I've added widgets that up in the header area, we've put in sharing icons. And if I click on any single post, because I did an after singular post, I've added a tweet button. So what I'm really highlighting is where the widget areas are. But in order to do this, one of the more powerful widgets that you get is a text widget. Now, I did say it was code-free, but I couldn't stay completely away. And a text widget is where you can actually add code to your site. So to get this, I just went to the Add This website and told them that there was just a click-through. I said, give me an add this code to show me social icons. Prints out a block of code. I paste it in here. So it's almost code-free. I didn't actually write this. So text widgets are really the last widget that I wanted to talk about, and that's really where you can just type text and have it display. You can put HTML code in there. You cannot, by default, put PHP code in there, but I don't think anyone here wants to try. But it really allows you to generate content. If you ever get a code from another website to embed something in, you can embed that in a text widget. You'll be limited by whether your theme can fit whatever you're putting in the space. But it's a very powerful tool to use. So that's my tour of widgets. So I'm going to move on to menus now. Menus are another very important content area. So if we go back to the site, figures. Right now, I don't see any menus on here. This one doesn't have any by default. There's no menu at all. So if we come in to the menus, full menus area of the dashboard, which is under Appearance Menus, we can see that the menu talks about theme locations. So that with the new style of menus, each theme defines where the menus go. So you could, most current themes that as Krista mentioned, if you look for the versions on the theme you're going to get, if it's been developed after 3.0, it should support menus. Did I get the version right? Yes. Okay. All right. So at that point, before that, themes are pretty much up to the, menus are pretty much up to the theme developer to put in and place on your site. Now we get control over it. So right here in this panel, we can set up a menu by simply clicking on the plus button, and it's going to say, give me a new menu. So we'll call this one WPNYC. And we click Create Menu. At this point, I've got a menu that's completely empty. So what do I want to put there? Well, a lot of people put in pages, and we have the pages area. And I'll click on View All, and I'll decide what do I want to put in my menu. So I'll put a home button in, because some people like that. They don't like to click on the image. And I'll put in a couple more items, maybe a half dozen, and I click on Add to Menu. So they now come over here in the menu area. And what this allows me to do is now I can, just like widgets, using drag and drop, order them the way that I want. And so not only can I move them on top, in order, I can also nest them. So at level 1, under that is level 2, and of course I'm going to be predictable, and under that is level 3. And I'll put lorem ipsum under that. If I save this menu, my menu is saved. If I go to the site, it still won't be displayed because I have not told the site to show the menu at all. That's done here in the theme locations. So I'm going to add it to the primary theme, and I've chosen WPNYC because that's the menu I'm working on. I hit save, come back here, and here's our menu. And it does do the drop-down menus, and we can navigate down. We also have the ability to add categories, and they just get added the same way that we added pages. Drag them over, nest them a little bit, save. The other thing that we can do is that if we want to link to content in our menu that's not a page or a category, we have the custom links area. So if we say I want a menu item for wnyc.org, and I'm going to label it WPNYC and add it to the menu, it now gets added. And I'll move it to the second position. Sure. Okay, so what we do is each menu item comes with a page item. If I click on the drop down, the name of the page is level 1. That's what we named the page when we published it. We get a choice on each menu item to give it its own name. So we can leave it and it will default in to the name of the page. But if I want to call it first level and come off of that, I will now be able to, once I save the menu, that menu item is now going to be called first level. So that's its label. On any custom menu items, it doesn't know a default name to call it because I didn't name the page, level 1, level 2, so that it could default in. So we actually have to give it a label. And that label is what's going to appear on the site. So when we come back to the site, we've now expanded the menu, and then this will, and I'll open it in a new tab, open up the WPNYC site. So I don't know if we want to actually drive people off our site, but it's just one of the features that we can do with menus. And menus are very important because it is the navigation of your site. Your readers are going to go to your site and they're going to see whatever content you've placed on the home page. But the menu is what they're going to be looking for to tell them where to go next. Okay? It's also, when the bots crawl your site, they will find the links from your menu items, which can help you with being found on search engines. And that's as much as I'll say about SEO. Okay?
Could you show the menu widget?
Sure. Okay. And now that we've built these menus, what we can also do is go back, and WordPress now has a menu widget. So it's called Custom Menu.
Navigate.
Did I miss it? Navigation menu. So if we drag this over and I drop it in the sidebar, see, his is different. I'm in the wrong theme. But what it does is says, what menu do you want me to show? And I'll say WPNYC. And Display Widgets is working on this. We save. And I'll put this as the first item in this primary sidebar. When I come back here, this menu is now also in the widgetized area. So that we now have that available for us on the navigation.
Can you repeat how you did that?
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to switch back to 20 theme 10 for a second so it looks a little bit more normal.
Because that will sort of equal a vertical menu on the side, right?
It's absolutely. And, okay, so when we come into the widgets area, we've already created our menus. Now, one thing I just did, and we'll go back to menus for a second, is I just changed my theme. And when you change themes, two things will happen. Your widgets will move, and your menus will get temporarily disabled. So what's happened here, I had in the primary navigation of the theme, I had WPNYC. Primary navigation is now blank. I have to reassign the menu, and I'll choose it there. Now that's saved, it will use that. When we come back to the widget area, I'm now going to have a custom menu widget, because that's what it's called by default. You know, as I mentioned, some themes will change some of the widgets, and that was one of them. If we drag the custom menu into the sidebar, it's going to say, what do I want to title it? And I'll just call it sidebar menu. What menu do we want to show? And I'll show the same menu. And then that's the only options. After that, it's display widget. We can save it, come back to the site and refresh. And now what we have is we've got our regular menu back, but we've also got in the sidebar the same menu. And they need not be the same. You can create menus for various purposes. So you can have a sidebar menu. You can create a footer menu and use this custom navigation widget to put it in there. Someone asked about WP Touch. I've used that on a number of sites. The Pro version supports custom menus. So you can actually, for your mobile site, create a mobile menu and have WP Touch Pro show that, and other themings like that do the same thing. That's just the one I happen to use. So the menus and the widgets work together, and they're a very powerful tool to display the content on your site. Want to do any questions now? Okay, so questions.
How standard compliant is this? Is this written purely CSS or JavaScript on the back end?
Okay, without getting too deep into it, the menus and the widget functionality is in what we call WordPress core. That's the files we don't edit. That is what you download from WordPress.org and install on your site. That's not your theme and not your plugins. And without opening up the core files, it's going to be a little bit of all of that. There's certainly CSS on here, because CSS is what's going to be styling that. That's left mostly to your theme. Okay, on how the widgets are going to get styled is mostly sitting in your theme, almost entirely. Okay, the core enables the areas, and that I would say is stable. The styling comes from your theme. Some plugins will add the styling, but for the most part, we are talking about the stylings coming from the theme. So I'd say it was stable. Yeah.
Can widgets be duplicated, or do you have to just retype in information?
I know there's a plugin for that. I don't remember the name, but you can just drag another of the same type to a different area and retype everything. That's the quick way to do it. But yes, I know that there is a widget duplicator. Thank you. The very end, okay. Duplicate widget. There we go. Okay. A widget can act as a duplicate of another widget. Okay. I don't know if it meets the test. It's only got 1,383 downloads. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, so you can do that. Okay. Yeah.
The text widget, is that where you would embed like analytics information, or like let's say Google Webmaster Tools?
No, well, Google Webmaster Tools, Google Analytics, you really have two ways to get them on your site. One way is really put them into the code of your theme in essence, but there are plugins for Google Analytics and for Google Webmaster Tools to put it in. In fact, What's his go by? Juice. Yeah. What's?
It's just a WordPress. I think it's called WordPress Analytics, or Google Analytics for WordPress. It's one of the most more popular ones to name.
Yeah.
Click on the popular plugins.
Yes. Thank you. So, where is it?
There it is. Well, that's the analytics one.
This is the analytics plugin by this developer, and this is a plugin that you put on your site. Put in your analytics code. In fact, I believe all he needs is the identifier. He doesn't need all the code. He'll generate that because it's standard. He's also done quite a number of plugins. Some Sociable, I think, Dana had mentioned, but also WordPress SEO by Yoast will handle a whole lot of this stuff as well as the Google Analytics and Webmaster Tools. You can tie into that as well. Okay? Question?
Yeah, if you wanted to move the, on the sidebar in the category it says follow me, and then I've got the Twitter, the Facebook, the Pinterest, If I wanted to move those into the header, does that need to be custom coded into my header, or can I just use a widget?
It depends upon your theme, because if your theme has a widgetized header area, then you can just move it there. If your theme doesn't have a widgetized header area, you're going to need some code because you're going to have to add it there.
How would I know if my theme has that or not?
When you go into your theme, when you look at the widgets, look at the widget areas. This theme, which is 2010, has a primary and a secondary widget area, which live in the sidebars, and 4 footer widgets. So if you go into your theme, look to see where it is. If you had noticed before, when I temporarily put on the prototype theme, he had a header widget, and that's why I could drag it into that. Okay, that's one of the things as you look for themes is think about where you want your content to be and think about what widget areas they define by default. While for anyone who works with WordPress and writes any code, it's really not hard, and I've got a link to adding widget areas actually written by Justin Tadlock in the slide deck. I didn't want to go into that, but I figured, let you know how it can be done. But you can add widget areas almost anywhere on your site. There's even some themes that are have ridiculous numbers of widgets. Okay.
So you cannot check out where those widget areas are until you have the theme activated?
If you go into the WordPress repository and go under themes, some of them are going to, because this one I know is pretty widgetized. I'm trying to see what he says about it. Okay, so if you look, it's actually very difficult to find, because even looking at this preview of this theme that I know is highly widgetized, it doesn't show the widget areas. He's mentioned how many custom page templates, but not how many widget areas. So there we have multiple widget areas. No.
That might be a bad example.
Yeah, do you have a good example? Pardon?
You're going to have to download and install it.
Yeah. It's very difficult. Downloading and installing it is the best way. Yeah.
Browsers, older browsers, and WordPress functionality. Can you just speak to that? Should I be concerned about that?
How old?
Yeah, how old? 3 years old.
Update the browser.
Is that the update the browser?
Really, if you're going to run your site, the WordPress admin does not support IE6 any longer. You will get a warning if you go to the browser if you go to the admin panel with an old browser telling you to go update. Your site's different though. Just because the admin is requiring a certain level of browser, your theme may not. But I don't think anyone that's designing is designing for IE6 for a long time. You're designing generally for current modern browsers and then working on backwards compatibility. There's certainly concerns. The older a browser is, yes, certain features won't work. Yes.
The other theme that you showed, what was the name of that one?
The one with the widgetized areas? That was Prototype.
Okay, well, the one where you put the Twitter button after?
That was I used that. That's prototype. I actually went looking for that because I wanted a theme where I could show something after a post, just to illustrate that you could have a widgetized area there.
And that area was called?
He called it after singular.
Oh, okay. Is that a standard term?
It's more like a coder because that's a singular post. So he's added the widget into that area. Any other questions? Yes.
When you created the menu bar and you had all the different categories, does that also create a page to link to?
No, those categories are, each post will have categories assigned to it. So there's category A, ACI form, category A, category B, category C, so that when I actually build a menu item off of a category, there are already posts that are in those categories because it wouldn't display if the category didn't exist. And, pardon? Thank you. So on the front page, we can see that on the post category A, B, and C, if I come up here to Cat A, if I click on that, we then get a category archive page for Cat A, and every post here will have at least one of its categories be Cat A. There's only two. Okay. Okay. So now, moving on, the next area, okay, we did that. That was me. Okay, useful link. Okay, tips and tricks. Now, this is a very subjective area, and we'll start with that. So anyone else in the front row that has some ideas, just throw them out there. I'm in the WordPress dashboard now, and the thing I want to start with is in the dashboard, we see our version. And as it's been mentioned a couple of times today, this site is on WordPress 3.3.1, which is the current version. And we've talked about security. You want to be on a current version. I'm not going to go and say you always have to be on the most current version, because there's times that, like when 3.4 comes out, there's a school of thought that people are going to say, let's wait until other people find the errors and 3.4.1 come out. I tend to run 3.4 when it first comes out because that's the kind of person I am, but I'm not going to recommend it. You've got to, take your own sanity check. However, it's really about how old you can go backwards. And the core development team has stated that they're going to support the current version and one prior for security fixes. No features, just extra securities. So the 3.2 version of WordPress, if you're on the most current 3.2 version, which is
3.2.1?
3.2.1 as well, I think. Yeah, 3.2.1. That's also patched up for security. And if a security vulnerability comes out and they announce tomorrow that 3.3.2 is out, they will also patch 3.2. It does take a little bit more work to go get it because you really have to download the whole thing. There's no automatic update for that. But there is a plugin. And the core team has released a plugin called Hotfix. And Hotfix, I'll install. And yeah, you're right. Neither do I. Hotfix, if we go back to the plugin installer and go back to install plugins, it provides hotfix for selected WordPress bugs so you don't have to wait until the next WordPress core release. And the author is Mark Jaquith, who's one of the core developers. And if you go to the WordPress.com plugin repository, did I say .com? Oh boy. It's getting late. I'm sorry. What it will actually do in the changelog is list what is actually been fixed. And these are security fixes that have been addressed in the latest version of WordPress. And this plugin allows you to run one version older. So it's an important plugin to keep in mind because there are times that you might, for certain functionality, generally theme or plugin based, want to stay on version 3.2.1 and not go to 3.3 on day one. Okay? Yes?
When you update to the most current version of WordPress, it could affect your widgets, your plugins, and your theme?
It should not affect your widgets because unless you're changing themes, those are going to stay put. Your plugins, whenever you're going to update to WordPress, you have to take a backup of your site. The only way you can be sure that if something doesn't go right is if you have a full backup of both the database and of your content. And by content, I'm talking really about your WP-content directory, which is where your themes, plugins, and most importantly, your uploaded media lives. Because every time you upload an image to put on a post, you're uploading it to the WP-content directory. They try to do a good job to make everything work, but things break. Okay? And if your theme is out of date and you install something on an update from WordPress, something may break. I had an instance where I had a theme that was using a slider to show a number of images sliding across the home page. And when WordPress in one of their versions updated their jQuery, it broke. Okay? And I had to go fix that. Okay? So, I mean, if you can, put it in, test it, have the backup in case you have to go back. Your theme, if you're using a good theme downloaded from sites like Krista mentioned, WordPress.org, watch the theme development. I've read a number of articles that recommend update all your plugins first and then update WordPress itself because you want to have the plugins on the latest version so that they know about the current version of WordPress. Okay?
Let's go next. Let's go through tips and tricks.
Okay. So one of the things is we're on the dashboard, and screen options is often overlooked. So throughout WordPress and more current versions, we've got the way that each screen is shown, we can control by show on the screen. So there's right now. Uncheck it, it disappears. If I don't care about incoming links, if I don't care about plugin nodes, and I don't want to know about the WordPress blog, I can hide it. I can also change the number of columns. So it defaults to 2 columns. I can say, give me 3, close it up, and now I've got 3 columns on the front page. The front page is also the dashboard. The dashboard is also drag and drop, and I can drag the content areas around so that we can then have on the dashboard that which we need right in front of us. Okay. The other neat feature that people overlook is help. They've done a real good job trying to put help on each page. Plugin authors and theme authors can tie into this, and it will give you links to documentation, links to the support forums. It will tell you what the areas do. So don't disregard this. If we look at the post area, one of the things here is, again, you've got screen options and help, and we've got all our posts listed. One of the more recent features is certain of the titles or captions are going to be in blue, and I can sort by those. So I can sort by the title, by the author, or by the date. So that if we need to navigate through and look for things, we can do that by sorting. We also have a search feature. So if I search for the one I misspelled before, I can search for that post, and it will come up with posts that have that word in it. So that you can actually, if you've got a lot of posts and you're now in your dashboard looking for a post, you can search and go through it. The other thing that's really kind of nifty is if we notice we don't have tags on 2 of these posts, we can actually select multiple posts here, go up to the bulk actions, and choose edit. Then click on apply. This is now the bulk edit feature. So I can actually edit all 3 posts at the same time, and I can add a tag to all 3 of them right here. I can also change the comment status right here, so that if we want to take 30 old posts and turn off commenting, we can select them all, go into bulk edit, and say, do not allow comments. Then when I update this, these posts will now have the tag, and if we go into them, commenting will be disabled. Okay, let's go back to the slide so I remember where I'm at. Other things that I think are overlooked is in the media library, is that we have a lot of options as far as how we present our media. And one of the things is if we add a new post, and let's go through this. This should have it. Let's see if it's what I think it is. Good. Okay, if I go into the media on this post, I've uploaded 3 images. So when you have 3 images, it allows you to build a little WordPress gallery. Now granted, there's a lot of plugins that do this, but this is the built-in functionality. And most people just take the defaults and don't do anything with it. But what we have in here is if we want to change the order of the images, we can drag and drop them, and it will change. And if we save the changes, it will change the order that it appears in the gallery. We also can change where the thumbnail links to and how many gallery columns we get. We can insert the gallery, and let me get rid of the junk that's in here. And if I preview this post, it now shows me 2 columns in the order that I specified. Okay. Just want to go through because we made some notes as we were going on today. So that's another tip and trick that I find interesting because it's something that I tend to overlook. One of the other things that we talked about at the break, and yes, I'll leave the, okay, one of the things that WordPress will also do is, and I could say I did that on purpose, is if I've actually edited something and I'm about to leave the page without saving, it's going to tell me, hey, you're about to leave the page, and any changes you made will be lost. Are you sure you want to leave this page? Since I actually am, I'm going to tell it that. But that is something that is very helpful. One of the other questions that came up before was, what's the real difference here between a WordPress.com blog and a WordPress.org blog? And one of the things, the biggest difference is you own the content, you own your WordPress.org blog. Everything we've talked about tonight, or at least most of it, to get away from the everything word, the plugins, the themes, that's all available in any shape or form on WordPress.org. On WordPress.com, there's no plugins. The only things you get, the only features you get, are that which WordPress.com has given you. Themes, you only get the themes that WordPress.com has given you. WordPress.org, you've got the repository, commercial themes, and many theme developers out there. WordPress.com is a great way to start because it's really low maintenance. They're going to run your site for you. They're going to deal with your hosting. They're going to deal with any server issues. All you have to do is write your content. The great thing about that is if you start there, the WordPress exporter and importer works very well. So that if you have a site like kcristiano.wordpress.com and you decide that you want to take that to your own site, you can export that and import it straight in by use of a plugin so that you have that ability to migrate easily from a .com to a .org blog. But the big thing is ownership. The .org, it's yours. The other thing to note, we've been asked a number of questions about, when I update, the theme developer says, be careful, don't update, I could lose changes. One of the biggest tips and tricks that you can have is that any edits that you're doing to your site should be pretty much limited to your theme. Your theme is yours. It's how your site gets displayed. Edit that. if there's a piece of functionality that you don't like or that you're trying to add to WordPress, don't go into any of the files that you've downloaded from WordPress.org and change them. They call that hacking the core files, because that's bad. The next update, all your changes will be gone, and you might open up a security vulnerability. If you want to limit functionality or add, as Dana said, there's a plugin for that. You know, search for it on WordPress.org. If you can't find it, use the site search on Google. Go out there. You know, there are good plugins. The possibilities are almost limitless as far as WordPress.org goes. Any other tips and tricks we want to throw in? We were trying to watch our time so we didn't run too hideously late. Okay. Any questions just in general, for not just for myself, but for any of the presenters from tonight?
Could you just very quickly, again, show me how you navigated to where the search options were, the section you were doing before the manipulating the images?
Okay, sure. So when we go into our all posts area,
yep,
we certainly have a box up in the top right-hand corner that says search posts. And that's just a simple text search that's going to search your posts. You've also got filters that we can say show by date. So it's defaulting to the dates of the posts by month. We also can filter by category. If I only want to see the Cat A categories, I can filter on that and get my category A. So these search functionalities are really very good for sites that have a tremendous amount of content, because over years you will build up a lot of content.
Thanks.
Another question?
I need to ask, I'm sorry, was that text widget part of the core?
Yes. The text widget comes with the core. Anyone else?
Go back to the text widget really quick.
Yes.
Is it something that you forgot?
I-
Open it up.
I
Like,
for-
of course it's not there.
Well, I'll bring one back.
Yeah, just bring anyone back.
I don't know what I'm bringing back yet, so
No matter. Expand it. Quick thing I wanted to point out is the automatically add paragraphs. If you don't really know any HTML code and you enable the automatically add paragraphs, for example, if you do a hard return, so you want to put 3 sentences in a row and have a hard return, enable that, because if not, everything's just going to be one blob of text.
that's right.
You know, just a quick tip.
So to illustrate that, now that I know what we're looking for, if we bring back the text widget, and if I do Kevin,
Not a lot of people use that, do they?
Krista,
Not many people know about it.
if I save this now and look at the site, the names should be next to one another, and they are.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Whoops.
Now enable it.
So now I come back. And now, and yeah, I tend to use the text widgets to add code in the sidebars, so that was a great tip. Okay? Yeah.
I'm going to attempt to build a site that provides content which is regularly updated from outside websites. A regular content menu, like a daily update or feed. Are you familiar with any plugins that work well with feed, content feeds?
Yeah. What is it? Yeah, that's yours.
I know. There is a couple that do that. I would always let people know if I'm doing that, because you're taking content from other people's sites as a common courtesy. There's a couple on WP. I don't know if I spelled that. This is one that pulls it on and reposts on your website, and you can choose the cron and how often you want it to post and everything, and what category to go to.
WP Ematico.
WP Ematico. This isn't half Spanish. It was made in Spain. There's also, I think it's called WordPress feed, I think. No.
You didn't put a space.
It's one long word. Feed
Really?
WordPress. Yeah. Feed WordPress.
Is that Ematica? WP
Yeah. It's kind of taken from the word automatic, automatico. And it's just making this one. The difference between this one is this one, it actually will link back to the site it came from. So it'll be posted on your blog, but it'll link up to the site that it came from, which I think is good attribution.
How do you identify these good developers of plugins? Like,
See, this is a full-time job right there. So,
just experience.
Somebody was asking me, like, it is experience and time. So, like, if you guys are just building a blog and it's like you want something, it might take you 20, 40, 60, 80 hours to do. It might take one of us 5 to 10 hours. So I guess you have to evaluate what the time versus money aspect is. Like, is it worth paying for somebody to help you do that and just get it done quicker? And then just show you the features you need? Or do you want to do it all? Which I mean, I've been using WordPress for 5.
For plugins that have been written by others, you say, oh yes, this Charles Johnson, he's good.
I actually do not know if Charles Johnson is good, but they have he has 500,000 downloads and 185 good ratings, and it's updated.
So that's it, just the ratings there.
Well,
and I've seen it on other sites that use it too.
And the other thing is that the developer community, you'll see the names over and over again.
Yeah.
And if you go on the WordPress.org site and see the core team, you'll see all their names. So a couple of the plugins that we mentioned come from them. And that's always a safe bet. I mean, that's the safest we're going to get. But then, like, both Rindy showed a theme from Justin Tadlock. We've both shown plugins from there. He's got an amazing site, and he wrote a few books.
$25 a year for membership for his site. I mean, it's definitely worth it.
A membership for his site gets, I mean, you can ask him questions and he'll answer, and he just won't answer. He'll write code for you.
What site is that?
Oh, my goodness.
What is his site now? Theme Hybrid, right?
Theme Hybrid, yeah.
It's mostly about theme hybrid.
It is mostly about Theme Hybrid, but if, like, you're coding, and it's really for coders, okay? Theme Hybrid,
Join the club.
You join the club. Okay, and you can log into the club, and what ends up happening is he's got a forum that's open to everybody, but his answers you can't see unless you're logged in. And to log in, you have to pay him $25 a year.
A year breaking the
Okay, and what I've found is that if you are trying to do some of this yourself, and if you go there and you've got a problem, you can kind of search on his site and find something that's going to apply even if you're not in his theme. Okay, get some really neat tips and tricks, but Theme Hybrid is where that is. Yes?
Is there a way to identify, if you're looking at a WordPress site, is there a way to identify which widget or which plugin is being employed in a particular, in a space on a page, just sort of
Sometimes,
to investigate,
what
I want that on my site.
I mean, maybe there's a better way to do it, but I actually look at the code of the site,
Right.
and I search through the code for a name.
Right.
Okay, it's usually Control-U or Command-U on a Mac to actually view the page's source code, and then you can go through. So you find if you see a site you really like and you want to know if it's a WordPress site, you can click on Control-U
I know how to do
and
that.
do that. Then it's a matter of looking for certain key indicators of if it's a WordPress site. So this is a BB Press. Okay, it says it right there. What could have said WordPress 3.3.1 as well. Then you'll look for names of themes and whatnot. So it lets you, so that's how I do it.
But are the plugin names actually?
Some of them are, because some of the plugins will load when your page loads, and you'll see their name. Many you won't see, but some you can. Do you have any other better ways? No.
Use Firebug and then go into the JavaScript and then it'll say.
Okay.
Same difference though.
Firebug is a source.
Okay. Yeah. You had a question?
No, I was just going to add inspect element.
Yes, but that takes you into Firebug or the equivalent if you're on Chrome. Chrome is I still call it Firebug. I don't know what they call it, but it just does the same function.
Real quick question: is there a way to have archives so that I don't have them listed down the right-hand side, but people can search for articles or either they know existed or search by keyword, and it'll be in the database. I just don't necessarily want to have them by month.
When you search on your site, it's going to search all your posts. So it's going to bring up a search page or an archive page, depending upon how your theme is written. and it will have everything they've searched for. The archive display, like the widget that shows by month, that's by default. I've not changed that at all. I mean, because you're just saying you'd like to have the archives listed,
If you
but
look at a site like the Daily Beast, they don't have archives down the side. But if you wanted to look up an article, you would just go to the search box and say,
And you can-
wasn't there something about, Santorum going crazy?
yeah.
Whatever.
So you do the same thing. You do the same thing on the search box.
Oh, okay, so what does the archives thing do for you other than
All the archives widget does is show a browsable list of the archives.
And it can be a drop down.
It can also be a drop-down menu as opposed
So I
to
don't even have to use it if I don't want it.
no, not at all. Any of the widgets that they have are totally your choice. For what you're talking about, you would basically just use the search box.
And they didn't go back for years and years and years, right?
And it'll
How do sites that are up for years and years that have thousands of millions of articles, keep the site from being just a monster when you've got
well, Dana did show one plugin in a slide.
Which one?
Relevancy.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
That's a good one.
So talk about it.
It's a better search option for WordPress.
Because people trash WordPress's search engine because it's not the best. Okay, it's not bad, but it's not Google. Okay, I've tried embedding a Google site search on the site at different places, and it's not that much better. But I've played with this one, and it's just a better search, and it's called
Relevancy. So it's relevant search basically.
If we go back. No, I want to show it to you because
you went past. There, back.
Here it is. Relevancy, a better search. Let me bring up the page now that I can spell it because I couldn't before.
And this has a pro version as well. So.
Spell it while you're typing.
SSI.
Well, it'll be
SSI. I think that's right.
So 2 S's?
Yes. So there, it's much bigger now.
Ooh, that's wow, exclamation.
Free. There's a free version and there's a paid version. Yep.
Also, besides search, other ways to drive traffic or recirculate your older content. We talked about related post content, related post widgets, right? Those work very well. Most popular widgets, right? So the most popular posts get displayed. You can display them in your sidebar. So any of those things are automatic, and they kind of help regenerate old content, so people can. So your older posts are not just hidden away in the archive.
Yeah, I mean related post plugins are really valuable. NRelate is one of our sponsors, and it's a really tremendous plugin. You should look at it. I mean, I use it on many sites. They've not only got the related post, you've got the flyout and a couple of
Most popular. Yeah.
They have the most popular now as well, and it works really well. And it allows you to style it because most of the related posts or most popular posts give like a bulleted list, and you've got to go style it yourself. This comes with a lot of built-in styles. It's a good plugin to let others know about content that is either popular or related to.
Search for it.
Pardon?
You would search for it
in the
screenshots.
Screenshots are awesome.
And relate. And screenshots. So you can see that the default style and the different styles that come out. Huffington Post style.
I've seen this everywhere.
And it's really good. And if you're a developer or if you have one, you can actually create your own styles inside this plugin. All right? I'm not wrong about that. Okay, I was like, well, that's not me hacking the plugin, is it? Okay. So, I mean, that's just something to look at because I've played with a number of these and I find this very good. So it's something that deserves being looked at if you'd like to look at something like that. And they're a sponsor, so you should recognize that. Yes.
which plugins do you have experience with? Which plugins do you have experience for A, shopping cart, and B, for incorporating like Google Maps or MapQuest? And the third point is, when you're using a plugin, to what extent do they get access to your traffic or people that are coming to your website?
Okay, we'll go kind of backwards. As far as a plugin getting access to your content, a good plugin won't. Okay.
Your traffic
Right.
information.
Okay. A good plugin won't. Okay. Or if they do, they will tell you about it in their file that they are going to report back. Okay. Because when you install a plugin, it's in theory just going to be on your site. If you're doing something like a Google Analytics plugin or using a plugin that uses an outside service, it should, they don't all, but they should clearly state that they're going to contact somebody else and then they're going to know something about your site.
And they put advertising on your site if you're using the plugin? I mean, do they?
This is generic.
I mean, generically, I mean, I wouldn't put one in that did it. It would last just a couple of moments with me. But, by and large, I don't see that happening with plugins, tossing advertising
and a
back.
lot of them have the check. You can remove the check mark so it doesn't appear on the front.
Yeah, and on the dashboard, there are plugin developers that'll put a little ad like, support me, I'm giving you this for nothing, send me $5, make a donation. But that's the extent that I've seen. For Google Maps, I generally just use an embed code for that. I don't use a plugin to put Google Map content on.
There's a plugin for that.
But as Dana is like the plugin master, there's a plugin for that. But search on WordPress.org. And the first question was the one that I...
Talk about
MapQuest. Okay. MapQuest and Google Maps.
Search on is the plugin?
The search for that on the WordPress repository. Search for MapQuest or Google Maps.
And shopping carts, CMS.
Yeah.
Shop.
Shop is...
There's two big ones, Shop, SHOPP, and WP e-commerce. And to be honest with you, you don't have to do e-commerce in WordPress. You can. There are other services that do it as well. You can use Shopify or
we're not going to find it.
Illusion. Those aren't WordPress plugins, but there are external services that you can make look like your WordPress site. So you have a lot of choices.
And that's a personal preference thing. Everybody, one person will say I like one better than the other, so it's really a matter of like what your needs are and how.
But those are the two big shopping carts.
And
if you're looking for a simple e-com plugin, there's one called eStore, I believe, and it's off a website called Tips and Tricks.
No, eStore's not that one. Oh, it's eShop, sorry.
eShop or eStore?
Oh, there's both of them. Yeah, but there's so many. You just have to test them out and figure out which what you need.
Actually, and also on our website, WPNYC.org, there is a video, both Shop and WP e-commerce presented here last year, I think. And if you, the TV site, there's a video on here.
Where's the tags?
Jonathan Davis is the big one. So e-commerce for WordPress and Shop Q&A. So you can see videos from whenever it was.
February 15th, 2011.
Yeah. And Jonathan Davis he owns the company, and he wrote the plugin. So it's a good presentation.
Obviously, you can get your analytics from Google or from your web host, but have you ever tried to, or is there a plugin for getting your analytics right in the dashboard?
Well, yeah.
Yeah, well, Google Analytics pulls it in.
Yeah.
Like the plugins will pull in the dashboard. There's a more complicated way, which we won't.
Yeah, I mean,
Jetpack has.
And I mean, we didn't talk about it much, but Jetpack is like the WordPress.org way to get. Well, it's WordPress.com living inside your WordPress.org site, but it gives you site statistics, and they're pretty good. It's just a matter of what you're used to.
And if you saw, just from experience, if you run 2 or 3 analytics services on your website, then none of the numbers are going to match. So just be aware of that. Don't go crazy. Hopefully they won't be off by that much, but then they're just not going to match.
It's nice to give a client like a one-stop shop where they could get everything they want instead of having them log in here and log in there.
Any client accepts Google Analytics.
Yeah.
Right. Google Analytics is a standard. It's really a standard.
I mean, that is...
And it pulls it into the dashboard.
Google Analytics is the standard. It's not. There are plugins to add the code to your site and to show the stats right
No,
in
but
your
I'm adding it
dashboard.
to the site. I didn't know about adding it to the.
No, that'll add it to the dashboard.
All right, I think we're going to be done with questions.
Thank
All right,
you.
so thank you, Kevin. Awesome.
All right. A couple things. I know I've said it before. If you have any more questions, this is a really good place to post them because all these speakers answer questions on the site. All right. Thank you very much. That's it. See you next month, third Tuesday of the month.